Okie dokie, so our 60-minute mash time has gone off. We are time to start sparging, but before we do that, some call it runoff. I guess that's the proper name for it. Is essentially it's recirc time. I'd love to have this, have my mash pump, be able to pump it back over the top of my mash, but we don't have the money for that just yet, so we do it by hand with one of these great flat bottom jugs. And it is literally the process of just jugging and gently-ish pouring over mash liquor back on top of the grain bed, which is set really nicely actually. I don't do this as long as maybe I should. I'm not quite sure what how long you should do it for necessarily, but I try to do it so I've put back on top all of the liquor that sits below the dead space underneath the grates at the bottom of the mash tun. We looked at them earlier. So then I know I've kind of got all of that liquor, water, that hasn't necessarily been in contact with grain is kind of mostly back on top. So it's going to have a chance to fall down through the grain bed as we're running off and sparging. This is running really nice and quick. Fingers crossed the sparge gods have been good to us. So we've got everything's been given the best chance possible to kind of be in contact with grain, and we're extracting as much sugar as we can. This is lovely and pale as well, which is just what we wanted. But yeah, and I kind of basically just kind of keep going until it feels like, I know it's about 50 litres ish underneath those grills, underneath the plates. So I'll just keep on jugging it, and then once I feel like we're not getting any more grain through, which is the stuff that's kind of made its way through in between the wedge wire floor on the mash tun, and this is starting to look quite wet now on top, then I just start running out, put the mash pump on, and then we can then set up for sparge. What I also like to do, and it's mentioned earlier about being a habitual note taker, is I take lots of gravity readings through the sparge. So, God, really throat today. I hope I'm not coming down with a cold. Is I take a first runnings reading, gravity reading, using my EasyDen Smart Ref, which is awesome. And then I take a reading every 100 litres through the sparge, all the way through. So I take another 6 or 7 readings, mainly because it helps me learn and understand how the gravity is changing in the mash tun as we're sparging, as we're washing out more and more sugar. So it gives me a real good feel now, definitely over time, recording it every single time, of what kind of numbers I should be seeing and looking at. And it's a really good early indication of, you know, are there any problems? Have I missed a bag of grain out? That's happened, right? I could also keep an eye on pH. So there's the 610 rule that a lot of brewers and stuff talk about if you're sparging in this sense. So you don't ever want the pH of your runnings to go below 6, or your gravity of the wort you're running off to go below 10. Once you get into either or both of those territories, you're in kind of tannin extraction territory. So that's another useful thing to kind of keep an eye on with this as well. But I'm kind of quite happy with this now, and I might let that continue to run and then start the mash pump, and then we'll get sparging, because this is all looking really nice and sugary. Downside to this is you get all the sugary wort across the front of the mash tun, which is more cleaning later, but try and do it as neatly as I can. So yeah, I reckon that will probably be it. I'll go and grab a jug and take a sample, and then we can get going, get the lid back on. That's what I Try and keep it as warm as possible. And yeah, we're in. So right, let's get the sparge on and let's get this underway. So we need, shut that water off there, it doesn't go everywhere. So we need the feed from the hot liquor tank. I know this is great viewing of hearing me talking and not seeing me, but you know, bear with. So, there we go. Hi, I'm back. So, got our hot water hose. Oh, hello. So we got our sparge arm, sits over the top, the grain bed. Everyone knows what a sparge arm looks like, right? Now this fits nicely in between these two covers. And I try desperately hard to not drop anything into the mash because it's hot. Yeah, that's pretty much in the center. I don't have any locating lugs on this, so I use these big clamps to hold it in place and try not to fall over because, you know, health and safety and all that. Let's get the mash pump going, shall we? That's going to now start feeding into the kettle while we start getting this going. I like to get the sparge going straight away. I used to let, obviously not all of it, the grain bed run dry, but I used to let a certain amount run through before I used to start the sparge. But actually, after talking to a few other brewers, actually doesn't really matter. Obviously, you don't want to flood it so much that you make the grain bed so heavy that it kind of compacts itself, which is always a risk. But you want it to be wet and not dry out. So if I got that on there and that on there, oops, stuck. I'll get over there like that. Let's get this pumped down a bit. Catch up. And then we can start the sparge off. Always have a leak to start with. Always. Slow that down a little bit, that puppy down. Looks like with the rice hulls have definitely done their job by the looks of it. So now it's just a matter of getting that balance right. It's all about balance of putting enough water in the top. We'll have a look on top of the mash and the sparge in a second. Controlling the flow out, so you're keeping everything kind of not in liquid, but keep everything suspended, nothing's compacting, plus the balance of pumping out. And it can take, you know, a bit of tweaking, a bit of playing to get it just right, so it just balances. I have found that, let me just make a marker on this as well. Should have done that while I'm still here, shouldn't I? I carry a little, I can't even get out of my pocket, a little wipeable marker with me, and I mark all my tanks. So that's there. I find that the mash does change as it goes through the whole cycle. It kind of goes quick, goes slow. So you kind of got to keep your eye on it the whole time. But generally, cool. Slow that down a little bit. And then we're there. So yeah, we're sparging. So you can see the start of the sparge. The first runnings are like super milky. I mean, there's a shed load of oats in this, so it's always going to be protein heavy. That will clear over time. You can see from that outlet, it's doing a nice little rotation as it's going round, and that forces any particles into the middle to collect so they don't get taken off, then pumped into the kettle. And then over here on the sparge, if I come around here, And then we look down in here. You can see the sparge arm's running. It's running a little bit wet for the moment, but that's fine. It will balance itself out and then start to run a little bit easier and the water will come down. But that's the kind of rate we're sparging at. You can just see the grain bed underneath the water level, so that's fine. I'm not concerned about that, especially not right now. We've just started. We've only sparged about 25 litres, so we've got another kind of 640 to go, so plenty. And then we're running into the kettle. So yeah, there we go. So sparge update is, it's going quite well actually. Sparge gods have been kind so far. This is spinning quite nicely. The wort's running quite nice and clear now. You can even see the arm in the bottom of the underback there as well. And then through here, hopefully it won't get steamed out, but yeah, sparge is wazzing its way through there quite nicely. We are up to, what's that, probably 500 litres now in the kettle. Elements are on. And sparge volume wise, we are down now to, which will come back to actually the 400 mark. I need to take a reading there. 500 litres, 600 litres here, and then we'll empty the hot liquor tank. So here's take one of the gravity sample there. I'm going to give this valve a little tweak just to speed up the flow a little bit more. Just constantly tweaking these things the whole time. Get that to flow a little bit. You can just see it starting to flow a little bit better now. So yeah, away we go. So yeah, sparging's going okay so far. Probably more than halfway through, to be fair. It's hotting up in here though, I will say that. The other two beers that we've brewed this week that are in tank are now, can we get this? There we go. That one's chugging away quite nicely. That was brewed on Wednesday. That's using Haze Heaven actually, which is a first for us from WHC. That's going to be, oh, I can smell it already. A big New England IPA that's going to go into keg and can. That one is going to be, it's going to be lots of New Zealand hops in it, let's put it that way. And this one we literally brewed yesterday. Is going already. That's a fresh wet pitch. I didn't get any pictures of them to show you, but we get big 10 hectolitre wet pitches. This is LAX from WHC, so basically their version of USO5. I pitched that last night at about 6 o'clock and it's going already in best part of 900 litres of wort. So that's good signs of a good healthy yeast cell count in there. So yeah, things are rattling along quite nicely. I'm going to go and do this sample and then we'll see how things are progressing. So yeah, so this is the Smart Ref Mantipar. This is what I use for brew days, just for taking gravity readings throughout the whole brewing process and when it gets into tank. It's a digital refractometer, so it is super accurate and super quick. The sample size is tiny. Obviously you can't use it for measuring alcohol, but it does everything I need for brew day. So for example, I've been sort of taking records here, you know, first runnings, 1080, always do tend to spike up a bit. So 1093 at 100, 1096, 300, I forgot to do it because I was doing something else. 400 reading I've just taken is 1064. So you can see where it's starting to drop now. Our total sparge volume is 660. And then I'll take a reading just at the end of the last runnings as it comes out of the mash tun, just to, again, just help me build up a picture of where we're at. And I'll do a pH check just to make sure we're not getting into anything too dangerous pH-wise. So yeah, it's all good. So we are right at the last knockings now of it all. I mean, that's pretty much it. Obviously, I turned the elements off earlier to make sure that we don't burn those up. But yeah, we're shooting for 660, so it's there and thereabouts. The last bit of the runoff actually has been quite slow, so it's been taking a little bit longer than planned, but we are getting there volume wise with what everything that's left in there. We should be hitting kind of 675, 680, something like that as the sparge continues, but we're just getting towards the back end of things. And as I like to describe brew days, is like squeezing 3 hours work into 8 hours. Can't drink there for some reason. Because I ended up spending just loads of time stood around watching things. But means you can have biscuits, so that's always good. Okay, so we've come pretty much to the proper death end of the sparge. It's time to now weigh out boil additions. Not very much. 100 grams of Magnum, good old-fashioned Magnum. And then we've just got a big whirlpool to go in after that. We're shooting for about 21 IBUs for this beer, so but it's got like a saturated bitterness underneath it, so it's not just like sweet, because that's just not the sort of big hazy beers I'm into. So yeah, so let me go and get this stuff out the freezer. I might get the Citra out as well now, just to save time, and then all the whirlpool, everything's done then basically. Let me just see if I can extend you there a little bit. There we go. Let's pop you down there. Right, can we go and get it out of the freezer? Hallertau. Where's the Magnum gone? It's not that. Is that the Citra? Oh, that is the Citra. Yeah, there's the Citra. Question is, where is the Magnum? Hallertau Magnum. There we go. I've got way too many hops in that freezer. Here we go. So, good stuff. So yeah, Hallertau Magnum, Citra, YCH. And I've got all the way over here, and I forgot to get a clippy thing to undo the cable ties. I'll be back in a second. So let me see if actually, I could probably walk this way and you probably see me-ish, but I'll carry on talking. So, so yeah, all these hop additions are just 60-minute boil addition. Just saturate some bitterness through the beer, and then all of the rest in the whirlpool is all just flavour, aroma. Pick up some bitterness. It's a 2 kilo. There we go, catch up. It's a 2 kilo whirlpool, so it's decent. And like I said, does two things of getting flavour and aroma in there, as well as giving us that extra little bit of bitterness in there as well. So yeah, Magnum, I mean, it smells of nothing, but gives a good solid bitterness. So 100 grams of that. Shall I try and get you? Hang on a second. So yeah, so 100 grams. Oops, here we go. Oh, Magnum. 105 is good enough. So that is literally just our bittering, and then the fun stuff. So whirlpool, 2 kilos. So I buy all my hops in 5 kilo foils. So they come in these big old bags. Oh, I mean, I can just smell that as soon as I've opened that up. Not sure what crop year this is. No, I need to look up the lot number. I think everything is 2023 for me, or 24. I need to check. So one of these holds about 1 kilo. That's the reason why we need 2. Remember, this is just whirlpool, so there we go. 1. And let's get you down there a little bit more. There you go. Do you want to see the numbers? Look, I can turn it so you can see the numbers as well. If I do that, look. There you go. Just to prove that I'm not cheating you. And yeah, Luna is a great beer. I mean, it's just an all Citra with a slightly more complicated kind of grain bill to give it a bit more interest. But yeah, I mean, what's not to love about 2 kilos of Citra in your whirlpool? Oh, that smells divine, that does. So then once that's done, you need to be careful you don't spray yourself in the face and get hot dust in your eyes. I've done that before, and I tell you, that stings. I zip ties these back up, squeeze as much air out as I can. I zip tie them back up, and they go back in the freezer. I know some people, they've got posh sealers and all that sort of stuff. Again, we don't have that kind of technology. I keep meaning to find a source for these reusable cable ties. You see them every now and then, don't you? People using them. I think they're bloody brilliant, especially for sealing up bags of pops. So yeah, if anyone knows like a reliable link for where I can get them, drop one in the comments or something. It's got to be like Screwfix or something like that, surely. I've just not seen them. Anyway, hop edition's done. Of course, the other thing I forgot to include in that little section was me weighing out the second water edition. So this is where, as I was explaining before earlier, I don't add, personally, this is just me, I don't add all of my water additions into my hot liquor tank, or all into the mash. That's a bit of a tongue twister. I do a second addition straight into the kettle with my boil hops. My theory behind this is it gives me much better accuracy on the final sort of water profile and mouthfeel and effect that it all has. So that's all of that there. Just for reference, that's 105 grams of calcium chloride, 80 grams of salt, vacuum dried salt, and 2 grams of gypsum, calcium sulfate, because I feel it gives me much better control over how I want the beer to taste in the mouth. Do I want it dry? Do I want it bitter? Do I want to, make it really big and sort of juicy without it being like flabby? I think that's a term used quite a lot. So I've spent a lot of time over the years playing around with my water profiles to be able to achieve that get some of it into the mash and then complete it in the boil, because then I know I've got what volume I'm working with, so I can really dial it in. So, but that's just what I do. That's just kind of how I do it. So yeah, that's just kind of how I do that kind of stuff. Really, it's an absolutely glorious day out. You could argue it's a lovely day to be brewing. 26 degrees in the brew house at the moment. Doesn't feel too bad. I think once I start digging that mash tun out, I might change my mind. So we're just running out what's left of the mash tun now. Should be able to see now that it's all done, it's all empty. Kettle volume, got 975 in the kettle, which I think is around about right. 95.5 degrees, so that's just coming up to the boil. Let this finish running out as much as possible so I can save myself as much weight as I need to dig out as possible. I've got a final running sample there to just test, and then yeah, into dig out territory. I've put sterilant. Some breweries do, some breweries don't. I like to sanitize my whirlpool and my heat exchanger. I like to run PA through it at the start of every brew day. I don't necessarily like or do the thing where you're running boiling work through it to sterilize it. I do run boiling work through it for the first 5 minutes or 2 or 3 minutes when I first start a transfer, just because it gives me an extra level of sanitization kind of protection. But I like to pump sani all the way around everything. Whirlpool pump, transfer pump, heat exchanger, spray ball in the top. I just think, you spend all this time and money brewing this beer, you've got to give it its best possible chance to not go bad on you. So yeah, that's just kind of about what I do, really. Cool, right, now the fun starts. It's time to dig out the mash tun. I don't know quite why I was bending down there, but there we go. Yeah, not particularly exciting, but necessary evil. It's got to be done, right? So boiler's on now. So that's now, yeah, we put the boil additions in, so that's now boiling away. We've got an hour of that to go. Get this dug out, probably give it a really good soapy clean because it's had a bit of a hammering this week. And it's hot at the moment, so if you don't get all the sugar off stuff and clean it up, stuff goes rancid real quick. We probably won't be brewing now for 2-3 weeks. Now we've got all the tanks full, and then canning and stuff. So yeah, it's just a run into the birthday from here. So it's just going to be dry hopping, doing sensory checks on the beers in tank. So let's get it done. Well, needless to say, that was a bit of a hot one, but that's the mash tun done now. I was just about to put it back together, and I thought you might like a quick look of the plates and stuff while it's all apart. So let me just spin you around a second. I'll just show you. So these are what's called the wedge wire plates. So you look right inside, close up there. So they're like a triangle shape. They're called wedge wire because they're like a strip of wire in the shape of a triangle. And it comes in two halves, so it splits apart so you can lift it out. They're keyed, so keyed under there and there, so they kind of fit together in the bottom of the mash tun. So down here you can see this is the dead space you've got to deal with. It's about, I've calculated about 60-ish litres is the dead space underneath the plates. Obviously the plates sit on top of this here in this direction, supported by the outer ring and then the strip down the middle. Obviously this needs to be quite strong because you can have anything to like half a ton in here, sort of, you know, 550 litre or more, you know, 250 kilos of grain, 550 litres of water. So this takes quite a lot of weight, this thing, so it needs to be pretty strong. But yeah, so that's how it kind of goes together. And then these kind of drop in on top. So I'm going to lift these in, get them in, and then I'll just show you quickly them all fitted back in. And here you go, all fitted back together, all nice and sparkly and clean, ready for the next brew day. But yeah, all locked together. Yeah, this does the job. So there she is. Another job done. So we've just come to the end of the boil. We just boiled off. We've hit our pre-boil target, 950, 960, which is about right. So we just need to shut off both our elements. And now I'm going to start transferring from the kettle into the whirlpool, going to knock it down to about 78 degrees. So what I need to do is I need to take my temperature reader here and pop it onto here. That's T2. There we go. So I can see the temperature coming out of the heat exchanger. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the hot water out the bottom of the kettle, down through here, around this hose. Along here, this valve's shut, so it's going to then feed into my transfer pump, out my transfer pump, through the seed filter, through the heat exchanger, back out, and that's how I can see the outcomes out the side of the heat exchanger, and then through and then up into the bottom of the whirlpool. This has all been sanitized and drained out. I do this so I can then dial this temperature into 78 degrees with the cold water that's coming in on this side, which is coming all the way around here from my cold liquor tank. It's about 4 degrees. It's had the chiller on it, so it should be nice and cold. We'll use hardly any to get the temperature down. So yes, that's what we're going to do. First thing first, I'd like to do personally though, and I've found this helps a bit, is if I shut this and I open this up, I like to just let the first slug of trub that's in the bottom of the kettle out by doing this, and then it just stops any trub that's in the bottom of the kettle going in and just blocking the filter straight away. So that stuff I don't want to let through, so then I can then shut that off, pop this back on, and I can then open this up, so that will then open that loop up. Then what we need to do is take this hose off and start to run this pump and use this valve to manage it, to allow the wort to come through and push all the sanitizer out that's inside of all of this. Is probably 10-15 litres in there, so we need to do that. So first things first is open this valve. Oh. Watch out for when you forget to, you're too busy talking and you forget to do everything up tight. That'll teach me, won't it? So we open that up. So that's now not leaking now. Then we take this off. off here, like that. Close this valve. If I go round now and start my transfer pump, I can now hear the pump running over here. I can pop this just here, that outlet just there. And now by starting to open this, I can see it starting to pump. And I know it's pumping because I watch this temperature here, and the temperature here will suddenly start jumping up. Open this a little bit more. So I can see there's flow coming out over here, look. And I'm looking for the temperature to start climbing there, look, see, so the hot work is starting to come through. So we're starting to push out hops and trub. See, this is still, I've got no chilling on now, so I know when we're through the sani, because that's now getting properly hot. This temperature is now shooting up. So now I can close this valve off. I can now bring this round. I can put it on the bottom of my, doing all this one-handed, which is quite tricky, right? That's now nice and tight. Now open this valve up. And we are now properly pumping hot work through. There we go. That's now shooting up. So it's coming out the bottom of the kettle, down and around, through here, through this pump, out, through the filter, through the heat exchanger, out and into the whirlpool. Now, the other thing I like to do, I mentioned it earlier, was I like to let the heat exchanger kind of be subjected to 90 degrees for a couple of minutes, just so it gets properly hot. Gives me an extra level of kind of feeling of safety that we're doing everything we can to try and keep everything sanitary as possible. So that's now going. You can see we were on 950, so that's kind of a little bit of what we've lost and what's been pumped through already. And that's now climbing nicely to 90 degrees. And I don't know if the camera can see that, but you'll just start to see some steam coming out in there as well. So now we've got, good solid 90 degree, real hot work going through, and giving everything a really good final sanitize, as it were. So the next thing to do is to dial in our chilling. We're going to need not very much water at all to be able to chill this down to 78 based on we've got 4 degree cold water. That's good enough now. I mean, that's 92, that's like a minute or so. I'm quite happy with that now. So now if we come over, start, it's just starting to pump through now, and we should see this will drop quite quick. And now it's what I call, it's the tippy tappy game. So I get my little tippy tappy stick and I start tapping the ball valve on the outlet of the water pump to dial it in to 78. Tip, tap, tip, tap. And I use this now. See, now it's obviously it's overshot a bit, but that's fine. And I now play the tippy tappy game, keeping an eye on this backwards and forwards until I dial it in, and then it just runs. Then it's good once it's set. So we've now finished the whirlpool. Open the kettle up, you're going to see that, but yeah, we've done 2 kilos in here, whirlpooling for 30 minutes, and we're giving it by 10 minutes just to rest, and then we start transferring. So here we change the valve layout slightly. We close that valve on the outlet to the whirlpool. We close this section up here, and then we start taking off in this section, pushing it out through there, back through the hot filter, through the heat exchanger. We're now chilling it back down to pitching temperature here. And then we're going to follow it all the way out, and then putting it into the FE here. Look at that colour. This is going to be a big juicy number, I'll tell you that now. got this little sidewalk valve here. I didn't capture it, but actually we opened that as a bleed valve. So we bleed off any work that's been sat in the pipe of the heat exchanger while we do wall cooling, just to make sure everything's got as good and sterile and as good as it can be. And that is essentially it. After this, it's just going to be CIP all these lines, cleaning everything down, more cleaning. I've got to climb in the kettle here, give everything a good scrub. I'll take you in there one day and have a look around. But yeah, that is pretty much the brew day done. So yeah, there you go. Thanks for sticking with me. If you've made it this far, you should get a little badge or something like that. It's been a hot one. It's 29 degrees in the brewery right now. I'm going to finish this transfer, get everything cleaned up, and I'm going to have a beer.